Hello everyone. Today we are going to be discussing subject-verb agreement in English. Now I'm sure many of you will say to yourselves, subject-verb agreement, a singular subject requires a singular verb, and a plural subject requires a plural verb, right? Simple. Yes, those are the two most basic rules when it comes to this topic. However, there are many more rules that have to be added to those, and we're going to get into those today. It's important that you understand this concept because it exemplifies good knowledge of the English grammar. You need to know how to conjugate verbs appropriately given the situation, right? Now, let's start with the basic rules and then we're going to get into the more complex rules, okay? So 1, if the subject is singular, then the verb must be singular. As I said at the beginning, this is the most basic rule, okay? Example, Susan writes the letter. So we see writes is a singular verb, right? Because Susan is a singular subject. Now, when it comes to this rule, there are two exceptions. You know, we said a singular subject requires a singular verb. But the subjects I and you, even though they are singular, they take plural verbs. So the subjects I and you take plural verbs even though they are singular. For example, I write the letter. We don't say I writes the letter or you writes the letter. No. Whatever verb we use with I and you must be plural. Even though I and you are singular subjects. Well, you can be plural, but the you can also be singular. But even if it's used to refer to one person, you still use the plural form of the verb. Okay? Now, this is just a rule when it comes to the formation or generalization. Yeah, let's say generalization might be better, not rule, generalization. So to make a verb singular, s or es is added to the end of the base form of the verb. Therefore, if the verb ends in s or es, it is likely to be singular. Right. So this is how we would identify a verb that is singular. It is likely to end in s or es. So, and this is after the base form. Because you would ask yourself, well, make is yes. But no, that's not yes because make, M-A-K-E, the verb to make, the infinitive form. This is what we mean by base form, the infinitive. When the verb has not been conjugated to agree with any grammatical subject. So make, okay, make, to make that singular, we add s. So that would be an example of a verb that requires an s to be placed at the end so that it can be made singular. Okay? Catch becomes catches. It wouldn't be catch. No. Es. Okay? So if a verb ends in s or es, it is likely to be singular. Right? So yes. Rule number 2. If the subject is plural, then the verb must be plural. Right. So example, they play games. They would be a plural subject, of course, because it refers to more than one person. And to form it, to make a verb plural, the base form of the verb is used, which is the infinitive, basically. Therefore, if the verb does not end in s or es, it is likely to be plural. Yep. And of course, this is just a generalization because there's many different tenses in English where verbs will change and what have you. So this is just a general idea, okay? And especially in the present tense, right? So if the verb does not end in s or es and it takes the infinitive form, right, it is most likely going to be a plural verb, right? So they play, from the verb to play, right? So yes. If I want to make that singular, I would say he, let's say he plays games, right? So you see that rule of adding the formula which requires the s to be added, right? See, he plays games. If we want to make that verb singular, right? Now we have just completed the two most basic rules. Now we're going to get into more complex rules, okay? So 3, when there is one subject but multiple verbs, the verbs must all agree with that subject, whether singular or plural. So if we have one subject, whether that subject is singular or plural, all the verbs must agree with that subject. Even when we have multiple verbs. For example, Anthony plays football, records videos, and bakes during his free time. So that's an example of a singular subject, but we have multiple verbs in the sentence, right? So plays must be singular, records must be singular, and bakes must be singular because our subject is singular, Anthony, right? Similarly, they buy groceries, cook them, and then eat them. That's an example of a plural subject. So all our verbs must be plural. But remember, the subject is plural in this context. So if we have one subject if we have a sentence in which there is one subject followed by multiple verbs, all those verbs must agree with that subject, whether that subject is singular or plural. And as you see here with these two examples, right? So these are 3 rules, and we continue. So we continue our analysis of the various rules when it comes to subject-verb agreement in English. So we are at rule number 4. When the subject is composed of 2 or more pronouns or nouns connected by and, a plural verb is used. So when we have and, right, a plural and connects the 2 subjects, whether the 2 subjects are plural in of themselves, right, or whether the subject consists of 2 singular nouns. But either way, once they are connected by and, the verb must be plural, because and means that emphasis is placed on both subjects, or on both nouns or pronouns. Okay, so Christopher and Danielle are friends. So it doesn't matter if we have if this first part is plural. So the boys and the girls are friends. Right? And in this case, you have the 2 subjects being singular. The 2 subjects will be singular. Right? So a plural verb is required. So if we have 2 or more subjects connected by and, the verb must be plural. Okay? Because that means emphasis is placed on all the subjects. Right? So, yes. Rule number 5. When 2 or more singular nouns or pronouns are connected by or nor, a singular verb is used. Okay? So, when we have 2 singular subjects that are connected by 2 or more singular subjects that are connected by or nor, a singular verb is used. So let's look at an example. The president or prime minister has to approve the budget. So we see we have 2 nouns, right? Or, So this is not the same as and, where both subjects, where there is equal focus on both subjects. Or is like either or, one or the other. Okay? So since both of these nouns are singular, then the verb has to be singular. Right? I could put a twist to that if the nouns were plural, then the verb would have to be plural. Okay? So when you have subjects that are connected by or, the verb would agree with the number of both subjects. So if both of the subjects are, or both of the nouns are singular, then the verb must be singular. Like in this example, the president is singular and the prime minister is singular. Either or. So the verb has to be singular. And if it were plural, the presidents or prime ministers have to approve the budget. Now I know the next question. I can already see the next question. What if we have a plural subject and a plural, what if we have a plural subject and a singular subject connected by or? Which verb would we use? Now that's the next rule. Okay? So just to recap, if we have two singular subjects connected by or, then the verb must be singular because it's saying either or. Okay? And they're both singular, so the verb must be singular. Now, let me answer your question because I know you're wondering, but sir, what if we have a plural subject and a singular subject connected by or? Now, when a compound subject, two or more subjects joined by a conjunction, this is the definition of a compound subject, contains a singular and a plural noun or pronoun joined by or nor, the verb should agree with the part of the subject that is closest to it. This is known as the rule of proximity. So there you have it. You have your question answered. So if we have subjects that are joined by or nor, okay, and we have one subject being singular and another subject being plural, then the verb is going to agree with the subject that is close, or noun, let's say noun, with the noun that is closest to it. So in the example, neither the boys nor the girl likes to study. So you see we have two nouns. So the question is, which one does the verb have to agree with? The verb will have to agree with the girl because that is closer. That's closer to the verb. Okay? So this is a follow-on from the previous rule, where we have a subject that is singular and a subject that is plural, or vice versa, connected by or nor. The verb is going to agree with the subject that is closest to it. So in this example, the girl would be the subject that is closer to the verb, so the verb must be singular. We can't say neither the boys nor the girl like to study. Because once again, this is not and. This is not and. So when we have these constructions, or nor, the verb, and we have subjects, we have a subject that is singular and we have a subject that is plural, the verb is going to agree with the subject that is closest to it. So remember that is called the rule of proximity. 7. Indefinite pronouns. And examples of indefinite pronouns would be anybody, someone, no one, etc. So these refer to words that are used to refer to refer to persons or things in a non-specific way, right? It's not a specific person or thing that we are referencing, okay? These take singular verbs. Example, everybody believes her story. So everybody would be an example of an indefinite pronoun, okay, because it does not refer to anyone specific, but it refers to people, okay? Everybody believes her story. And you see we have a singular verb. So indefinite pronouns require singular verbs. Rule number 8. Uncountable nouns take singular verbs. And so the next question is, what is an uncountable noun? An uncountable noun refers to nouns which cannot be made plural or be used with a or an. So another way we can look at it is that an uncountable noun refers to a noun that cannot be counted using numbers. So it cannot be made plural. These are nouns that are singular, right? So, example, diabetes affects many people around the world. As you know, diabetes is an example of a non-communicable disease, right? But it must be singular even though it ends in S. The form looks plural, but it refers to a concept, right? So it is singular and it cannot be counted. You can't say a diabetes. No, diabetes. Okay? So diabetes affects many people around the world. So that is the 8th rule. Uncountable nouns must take singular verbs. All right? So these are some more, but we continue. So we move on to the final rules when it comes to subject-verb agreement in English. Rule number 9. Collective nouns take singular verbs. And if you do not know what a collective noun is, collective nouns refer to nouns which imply that more than one person is involved, but are still considered to be singular. Examples include group, family, team, etc. So with collective nouns, we are going to have, obviously collective nouns involve more than one person, but they are regarded as singular because they're seen as an entity itself. Okay? The focus is not on the individuals within the particular unit, entity, what have you, right? So for example, the group meets every week. Obviously the group refers to more than one person, otherwise it would not be called a group. But in this context, it would be singular because the group is seen as a whole. The group itself, that will be singular. But there are instances where we can use the plural verb, a plural verb with a collective noun. But this is where we want to emphasize the members of the particular group. For example, however, the plural verb is used if the focus is on the individuals in the group. Right. Example, the committee participate in different activities. So as you know, a committee consists of many different persons, but if we want to focus on the individuals that make up that committee, then we use the plural verb, right? So the committee participate in different activities. So in this example, the committee, we are focusing on the members of the committee. If we said the committee participates in different activities, then we are looking at the committee as a whole, as a group, as one entity, right? So just remember that collective nouns will take singular verbs when we're referring to it as a collective. We refer to them as collectives. However, if we want to focus on the members that make up that particular group, then we are going to use a plural verb. Okay? 10. Sentences that begin with there is, there are, have a different order. The subject follows the verb. Therefore, the verb agrees with the subject that follows. Okay, so normally we have the subject and the verb. So the subject precedes the verb. But in this context, the verb actually precedes the subject. Okay? So, example, there is little progress. So we use the verb to be. Little progress, that would be a singular noun. Therefore, we use is. Right? So the verb is going to agree with what follows. And little progress is singular, so it has to be is. It has to be singular. Likewise, there are many reasons why that happened. Once again, we use the verb to be. Many reasons would be plural, so our verb must be plural. There are many reasons why that happened. Okay? And this is the same thing with here. So here is my car. Here are my keys, for example. So here is my car. Same thing. The subject agrees with the verb, but of course the order is different. So here is my car. My car is singular. Here are my keys. My keys would be plural. So yes. And of course we could use other verbs, but this is just the rule, right? So that would be Rule 10. Rule 11. When it comes to prepositional phrases, the verb must agree with the subject and not the object. Therefore, if the subject is singular, then the verb must be singular, and likewise for a plural subject. Okay. Prepositional phrase. So a prepositional phrase is going to consist of a preposition and an object. Okay? An object, the object will be a noun, of course, right? So a preposition followed by a noun, and that noun will be an object. Okay? So these, when it comes to this particular rule, this can be very confusing because you have to identify the subject of the sentence and not be confused by the prepositional phrase. Let me show you what I mean. One of the girls believes in God. So what's the subject? One of the girls. But many of you may be confused by of the girls and you may think that it's plural. But that is the prepositional phrase because we have the preposition of and then we have the object, the girls. So that would be the object. So the verb does not agree with of the girls, it agrees with one. Right? So when it comes to prepositional phrases, the verb is going to agree with the noun that precedes the prepositional phrase or the noun that comes before the prepositional phrase. So if that noun is singular, then the verb must be singular. You would ignore everything else. That is just the prepositional phrase is just additional information, right? So one of the girls believes in God. The subject is one. One. Of the girls would be additional information. You see what I mean? Right? So one of the girls believes in God. If you want to show a plural example, many of them believe in God. What's the subject? Many. So that's plural, right? Of them. Again, additional information, right? So a prepositional phrase is going to be a preposition followed by a noun, right? And that noun will be the object. So when it comes to these phrases, you are going to, the verb is going to agree with the subject or the noun that precedes the prepositional phrase. So if that noun is singular, then the verb must be singular. If that noun is plural, then the verb must be plural. So don't get confused with prepositional phrases, okay? And finally, 12, in phrases like as well as, in addition to, and along with, the verb must agree with the noun before these phrases, okay? Similar to the prepositional phrases. Therefore, if the subject is singular, then the verb will be singular, and likewise for plural subjects. So example, Tom as well as his friends is going to the party. Not Tom as well as his friends are going to the party. As well as is not the same as and. And means that both of the nouns or the nouns that are used have equal focus. There's equal focus on all of the nouns that are connected by an. But when it comes to as well as, no. As well as is a phrase that will place emphasis on what precedes it. So whatever precedes it is the focus, but whatever follows it is not as important. This is why the verb in this case has to be singular, because the subject is Tom. And this is true for all of these phrases. So these are not substitutes, or these are not synonyms of an. No. And means that there's equal focus on all of the subjects. Okay? Or nouns. But, or pronouns. But in these phrases, there is not equal focus. The focus is on the noun that precedes these phrases. Okay? Similarly, the employees along with the, let me move this side. The employees along with the employers were fired. Once again, we have one of these phrases. The employees, that's plural. So that is the noun that precedes the phrase, right? The employees along with the employers were fired. So this is just past tense. Were. So we need a plural verb. Okay? Yes. So just remember that those expressions are not synonyms of an. The verb has to agree with the noun that precedes those expressions. Okay? So this brings us to the end of this lesson on subject-verb agreement in English. I hope that you have internalized all of these rules. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.